You're probably wondering why I brought you here, sir.
Everyone knows we've got one of those, Jenkins.
No, not that, sir. Over here.
Information from it.
That's what I need to show you, sir.
We're going back underground for the third issue of PlayStation Underground. Released in September 1997, these discs go for a sort of space futuristic theme. But to be honest, that could describe about half of the entire PlayStation's lineup. Really, this issue puts some focus on Blasto, as we'll be seeing some videos on that. Anyway, we've got a whole bunch of demos, videos, and other goodies to check out. So here we go.
We've arrived at the combat area. We'll leave as soon as your AC is deployed. System engaged.
Our first demo is Armored Core, developed by From Software. Yes, that From Software, as in Dark Souls and Elden Ring From Software. Armored Core involves controlling giant mech suits in combat missions against other mechs and vehicles. Your mech is highly modular, allowing you to customize everything about it, swapping out parts for better upgraded ones. You take on missions to earn credits to pay for more parts, but accepting certain missions may prevent you from taking other missions, creating a branching path through the campaign, making this a rather replayable game. Each level is open, allowing for exploration to find your objectives. The game also has a 2-player split-screen versus mode. Reviews of the game liked it a lot, praising the open levels and the customization. The demo gives you 2 missions to choose from.
AC unit destroyed. Combat halted.
Next, we have a video all about NFL GameDay 98.
Show me the gameplay. Show me the gameplay. Show me the gameplay.
I'm going to show you the gameplay. They want to get the players' feedback. They want to get their interest. They want to go as far as to get their movements. And so now when somebody plays the game, they're playing a simulation of an actual football game. Sitting down with the programmers also lets you know how good they understand the game and in turn which allows them to make a better game. So obviously a lot of work goes into it, a lot of preparation.
We find ourselves another puzzle game with Intelligent Qube, or Karoshi in Europe. Originally released in Japan, the originality of the game caused a stir, so it was released everywhere else. something that games created specifically for Japan usually don't end up doing. Karushi is often compared with Tetris because of the falling blocks, but where in Tetris you clear blocks by making lines with them, in Karushi you clear blocks by dropping charges on the floor and then detonating the charge as a block falls on it. The grey blocks need to be cleared, but the black blocks need to be left alone. The green blocks give you a way to clear multiple blocks at once. Once you've cleared a green block, a special charge is left behind. Once you press triangle, all blocks on and nearby the special charge are cleared. This is a great way to clear out loads of blocks at once, but it does mean you have to be careful when you detonate the special charge so you don't clear any black blocks. You need to clear all grey and green blocks before they reach the end of the runway, and let the black blocks fall off the runway. If you can do that, you get a perfect rank and the runway is extended, making it that much easier to clear off the next set of blocks. But if you clear a black block, the runway is shortened, and if your character falls off the runway, it's game over. If your character gets squashed by a block, you have to do that set again. The game has a 2-player option, and there are also plenty of instructions and tutorials built into the game. Overall, an addictive and unique puzzle game for the system. The demo lets you play through the second stage. Get ready for the rhythm game that got every kid rapping and dancing in the late 90s. This is PaRappa the Rapper, and it will get anyone dancing to the groove. You control the titular dog thing PaRappa as he tries to impress a girl he likes by rapping with the experts. This game gets hard in later stages, so if you want to play, you need to be able to match the beat. You are ranked on how well you are doing at all times, and the game doesn't take it easy on you. The demo gives you the entire first stage to play, so why don't we experience the entire thing without me blabbing over it?
Again.
What?
Kick, punch, it's all in the mind. If you wanna test me, I'm sure you'll find the things I'll teach ya. Sure to beat ya. Nevertheless, you'll get a lesson from teacher. Now kick,
Kick,
punch,
punch,
chop,
chop,
block.
block,
Once more now, kick,
kick,
punch,
punch,
chop,
chop,
and block.
block,
Don't get cocky, it's gonna get rocky. We're gonna move down to the next jockey. Now duck,
duck,
jump,
jump,
turn,
turn,
pause. Listen carefully, jump,
jump,
pause,
hold,
duck,
duck,
and turn.
turn,
Yeah, I see you're getting better. Kick to the limit in order to get her. Now kick, punch,
kick, punch,
chop, block,
chop, block,
chop, kick,
chop, kick,
punch, block.
punch, block,
Gonna get harder now, duck and jump,
duck, jump,
turn and pause,
turn, pose,
duck and turn,
duck, turn,
jump and pause,
jump,
Why don't you follow my words because we're almost done. I'll make it easier first. I wanna see if you wanna see what it means to be the man with a master plan. Are you the man now? Here we go now. Kick, punch, block.
Kick, punch, block.
Chop, kick, block.
Chop, kick, block.
Block, tell them kick it.
Block, tap, kick.
Block, duck, punch.
Block, duck, punch.
Duck, duck, turn.
Duck, duck, turn.
Jump, kick, chop.
Chop, kick, chop.
And punch, punch, punch.
Punch, punch, punch.
That's it for today. Good job, PaRappa. You can go on to the next stage now.
Yahoo! All right.
The last demo in this disc is for Steel Rain. How can I describe this one? Well, I'd say it's the face of every generic 3D tank game at the time. This game has players choose from a selection of tanks to take on several missions, each with their own handful of objectives, which all pretty much boil down to go over there and blow this thing up. The game does offer a 2-player mode, which is basically 3D combat before that became a thing. Reviews at release were not impressed with it either, with many critics calling the gameplay basic, the graphics mediocre, and the multiplayer short. So if you're really into tank games, you might be able to enjoy this. Otherwise, pass it by. This time on Debriefing, we're interviewing the chief audio engineer at Sony Interactive Studios to learn how audio in PlayStation games work, using Blasto as an example.
I was more interested in what was going on the other side of the glass, so to speak. So I went to Berklee College of Music and studied audio engineering, and then headed out to Hollywood and basically paid my dues in the recording studios, getting coffee and running errands. A big part of my job here is sound evangelist, to go around to the producers and be involved from the beginning of the project. They're realizing how important a piece of the puzzle sound is, and talk to them about, what are their goals for this project? What would they like it to sound like? We go over a style guide, what movie soundtracks, what albums do they really like, and I take that information back and look it over and go through it and then get as close as I possibly can. Chuck Dowd is on staff, and he is primarily a composer. He's doing the score for a game we're doing right now called Blasto. His bag, if you will, is what a lot of the producers in-house want on their games. We have a interactive audio engine here. We call it an adaptive MIDI engine. Chuck is composing the music for Blasto in such a way that it requires him to actually program the musical score to interact with gameplay. So as you approach specific sections of a map, are attacked by some number of enemies, the musical score will actually adapt to that situation, get more exciting, get more intense, get darker. if you're just roaming around exploring, it'll get much more moody and just ethereal. And to the point where if you roam around long enough, the music will actually stop for a while, which is actually even more dramatic, because then when you come around a corner and there's an enemy, you'll get this explosive music will enter back in.
Grab a mop, there's gonna be guts on the ceiling.
Behind the scenes, it's the making of Blasto, the wacky cartoon space adventure starring Phil Hartman as Blasto.
He's basically a parody of 1930s superheroes, Flash Gordon, Buck Rogers, that kind of thing, but also with an element of the cartoon side. We just wanted this superhero who was very overconfident and believed in himself so much it was ridiculous.
Oh, I'm good. I'm back, but this time I brought a friend with me. Let me introduce you to Mr. Fission Blaster.
The game basically takes place in a future world where Captain Blasto is protector of Earth and the galaxy, or at least self-proclaimed protector of the Earth and galaxy. He's warned that Bosk, his nemesis, is up to his old tricks again, plotting to take over the Earth, or at least destroy it, and to go and put a stop to it.
If this doesn't kill you, I'm yours on a sesame bun. Does a Terrian bat fart propane?
Blasto in his initial stage, I don't even think he was human at that point. I was playing around with some different characters, some anamorphic characters. I wanted some sort of a space hero that would be fun, something that maybe had the feel of, say, Duck Dodgers.
Better have a doctor take a look at that one.
Because I really, really love that stuff. But then eventually tried to work it into more of a humanoid type character.
Dan, got you all over my shoe.
We felt that the personality in the character could really add a lot to a game that we were wanting to do, which was this 3D roaming free environment. So the three of us, pushed around a few ideas with this personality.
Now for the event center section. This time we have two videos here. One for the E3 1997 roundup.
Yours for the trying, where you could feel the electricity in the air. If you're anything like Brad Lynch and Christopher Gordon, you'd know exactly what to do. Play till your thumbs bleed. Brad and Christopher are two PlayStation Underground members who happen to live near Atlanta, the site for this year's E3, the world's largest gaming show. E3, also known as the Electronic Entertainment Expo, annually brings together top interactive companies. In fact, over 400 exhibitors from around the world participated in E3 this year. Excitement was contagious there, and at the center of it all was the PlayStation. Our display was the size of a football field and allowed 220 people to experience upcoming PlayStation games at the same time. We weren't just content to be one of the largest exhibits there, we had to be the best. So we did whatever it took, even putting showcases off the ground to pack more into our space. Of course, the PlayStation Underground made an appearance too. With such a great set, ever wonder what video
And the other talking about the 1997 Tokyo Game Show.
The Tokyo Game Show is like E3, but only about half its size. However, nearly all of the major video game manufacturers are represented. As we made our way through the show, we could tell which games were the potential hits by the lines forming in front of the kiosks. And of course, the game companies go out of their way to capture a visitor's attention.
We have two downloadable saves over in the download station. The first is for Ogre Battle, giving you more powerful characters, higher reputation, and high alignment. The other is for Dynasty Warriors, unlocking Nobunaga. Taking a look at the research and development section, we get a video talking about the analog controller, finally giving 3D games more control with 2 analog sticks.
This is a really cool controller. It really has a lot of flexibility in the sense that, as in previous games you've created, they supported digital. What we have with the analog is you're able to now fluidly control your game in many different ways. We're starting off in digital mode, and as you see, I'm accelerating, and every bit of turning, I'm actually hitting my directional button. And then when I brake suddenly. As I start in analog, I have a finer control of my driving. As you can see, I can slow down gradually, as well as accelerate at a quicker speed. If I brake, I can gradually press on my brakes and slow down.
How are those black PlayStation CDs made?
The Tech Q&A section continues asking submitted questions, this time asking how a PlayStation CD is made.
PlayStation CDs. We got a camera inside to find out how it's done. Security is tight because valuable master CDs are made in this room. It's a delicate process. Check out the protective gear. A stray speck of hair or skin could bring a game to a screeching halt later. Your game came from a developer on a special gold CD as a series of zeros and ones, offs and ons. A laser reads this pattern, then flashes off and on to burn it into a glass master disc treated with photosensitive film. The disc is rinsed. The parts of the film that have been exposed by the laser wash away, leaving a series of pits and bumps in a track. This track is so narrow that a single strand of your hair would cover 40 of its rings. A laser in your PlayStation reads the track, and computer chips convert the zeros and ones into the graphics and sound of your game. The actual CD starts here as a handful of plastic pellets. They get melted. The hot plastic flows into a stamper where it's pressed with the track of your game. Black ink is added to the plastic to give the CD its distinctive, cool, PlayStation-only look. This also helps protect the CD from illegal copying. A thin aluminum coating allows the laser to reflect off the track and read it. And another machine makes sure there are no defects.
The Code Archive returns, bringing with it cheat codes and hints for various PlayStation games. Lastly, we have the Bulletin. Here you'll find various notices, such as getting underground online, all the secrets found on the previous issue, adverts for underground merch, how to contact the magazine, what's coming next, and information about all the contests being hosted, as well as winners of the previous contest.
We were hanging around Atlanta for E3 when we found out that the winner of the first PlayStation Underground CD sweepstakes lived nearby. So we had the grand prize shipped overnight to our hotel, rounded up a van, and hit the freeway. Finally, we reached Fayetteville, Georgia, in the Atlanta suburbs. And there she was, our grand prize winner, Carrie Davison. For taking the time to enter, she won the hottest fully integrated home entertainment center, a Sony Maximum television system, specially delivered by 2 hulky members of our team. Of course, we had to stick around a while to enjoy some good old Southern hospitality. And in the process, we managed to add a new member to the PlayStation Underground family. Nice to have another satisfied customer. Mission accomplished. Enter this issue sweepstakes and maybe you'll be our next stop.
Now that Disc 1 is out of the way, let's take a look at the demos found on Disc 2.
Cool Borders! Here we go!
Here's a demo for Cool Borders 2. We saw the demo for the first Cool Borders game back in the first issue. The sequel wasn't much of an improvement to the gameplay overall, but it did bring 10 courses, double that of the first game. Despite the game being fairly mediocre and only receiving mixed reviews, it still sold well enough to earn greatest hits status. This was largely due to snowboarding and other extreme sports gaining popularity in the late 90s. The demo gives you a timed run on a single course.
Okay! All right! All right!
Next is the demo for Kart World Series. This racing simulation game is based on the late 90s series of championship auto racing teams. It is officially licensed and features many drivers and tracks from the time. As a simulation, the game also features realistic car performance and damage, and encourages players to make modifications to their car before each race. The game also supports split-screen multiplayer, as well as via link cable. Reviews on release were okay. The graphics were praised, the soundtrack was criticized, and nobody could agree on whether or not the controls were good. Some found them not responsive enough, others found they kept your car on the track. The demo gives you a quick race on the Lexington circuit. Back in issue 1, we saw the demo for Jet Moto. Well, here in issue 3, we have the demo for its sequel, Jet Moto 2. Also known as Jet Rider 2 in Europe, this game's gameplay is largely identical to the first game. However, the physics and controls have been tweaked, making them slightly better. And to save on CPU strain and memory, the AI has been replaced by recordings instead, meaning the difficulty is increased as any mistake the player makes could easily mean a loss. The game continues with its heavy use of official sponsorship branding, and adds 10 new tracks, as well as the option to unlock the first game's tracks. Reviews on release were somewhat mixed. Critics praised the new variety of tracks, but others complained they were confusing and unfair. Some praised the physics, others criticized how easy it is to lose control of the hoverbikes. The graphics were praised, and also not. Nobody could agree on if Jet Moto 2 was an improvement or not. The demo is to try a single course. Core Design wasn't just making Tomb Raider games, as we see with the demo for Fighting Force. This is a 3D brawler, not unlike games such as Streets of Rage or Final Fight. Players choose from one of 4 characters and progress through various urban levels, beating up waves of enemies. Players can come across several weapons to use, such as knives and guns. Reviews on release were underwhelming. While some critics enjoyed the high amount of interactive scenery that could be destroyed, overall most agreed that the genre didn't really benefit much from a transition to 3D. Here's a demo for Croc, Legend of the Gobbos, a game that's trying to be Super Mario 64 for the PlayStation, although the somewhat tanky controls do impede that a bit. Levels are broken up into small, connected areas consisting of various puzzles and platforming challenges, with plenty of collectibles and secrets. Despite the controls, Croc did rather well with reviewers, and sales were very good. It is a charming little game, and Croc himself is just adorable. The demo gives you the first level to complete. What's next? Ah yes, the demo for Jersey Devil. Another 3D platformer game vying to be the console's Super Mario 64 clone, although this one didn't do nearly as well as Croc did. Players control the titular Jersey Devil in an attempt to stop Dr. Narf and his army of mutated vegetables and other monsters. Narf, isn't that Pinky's catchphrase? Anyway, the game is your usual platforming fare. Roam open levels, use various moves to defeat enemies, find all kinds of collectibles. Reviews on release were pretty mixed. The game, as you might expect, was compared to other platforming games on the console, with many critics considering it stale. However, the biggest complaint the game received was regarding its camera system. The demo has a single level for you to try and explore.
August 5th, 2219, 3rd Fleet, Earth Orbit.
This is the final demo on this disc. It's for RayStorm, a vertical shoot-'em-up. Actually the second game in a trilogy, the first being Ray Force and the third being Ray Crisis. There's quite a few shoot-'em-up games on the console, so what makes this one stand out? Well, your craft has 3 different attacks it can use. The first is your standard Vulcan-like laser, the second is a lock-on missile system, and the third is a screen-clearing special attack, which can only be released once enough enemies have been destroyed by the lock-on missiles. The game goes heavy on the arcade feel, with text overlays mentioning coins and credits, and the ability for a second player to jump in at any time. The game was considered decent on release, with many critics enjoying the gameplay and special effects. However, the music was considered lackluster for the genre. The game was considered quite favourably to Devious. Now we're on to Disc 2's previews. The first preview is a rolling demo for Tomb Raider 2. The next preview is called Sports Feature, and it shows footage from NFL GameDay 98, NHL Face-Off 98, MLB 98, and Kart World Series.
Or any other video game system. What are the games like? Who's creating them? We're taking you inside to find out. The first thing you notice is that the biggest influence on the games are the pros themselves. They're kept pretty busy in the motion capture studio.
We get a guy like a Chad Brown, a Lamont Warren, a Jerome Bettis, a Steve Bono, a Tim Brown. We get them down here and we pick their brains. Yeah, we get them in the motion capture studio and then we spend hours going over plays and individual player movements. You're going to find linebackers scraping in our game. You won't find it in other people's games. Why? They don't even know what it's about.
The second biggest influence at the PlayStation Athletic Department is the sports expertise of the developers themselves.
We're all sports fanatics here. We're not just programmers and artists putting a sports game together. Ex-college players or ex-pro players actually develop the games. The developer for MLB 98 played professional baseball for the Minnesota Twins, Chris Cutliff. Kelly Ryan and myself played Division I college football. Our lead hockey programmer is actually a hockey player, plays twice a week. It makes a big difference when you have someone that understands the game and can implement little nuances into the video game itself.
The result is a first in sports video games.
After that, we have a preview for Apocalypse.
And that is the first to texture map a real person's face onto a CG model's body.
Welcome to paradise, kid.
And that face belongs to action movie star Bruce Willis.
Time to get jacked up for Armageddon.
Bruce Willis stars as Trey Kincaid, your virtual partner in the Apocalypse adventure. Motion capture technology was used to fully integrate Bruce into the game. Apocalypse is set in a dark and violent future where science and religion are competing forces of society.
You can run, but you can't hide!
And finally, we have part 2 of the interviews with Squaresoft regarding Final Fantasy VII. The first part was shown on the previous issue of PlayStation Underground.
The most significant difference to us was capacity. Before, we were given restrictions in capacity, so we had to create one basic model and fiddle around with it, making players believe there were variations. It was a good way to become resourceful in limited circumstances. But on the CD-ROM, that restriction was completely taken away, and we didn't have to worry about various ways of modifying one basic model. If we needed 100 models, we could create each of them from scratch. The basic concept you have when creating RPGs is to imitate the real world and create a fictional world within the game. We have followed that concept in previous versions of this series, but technically, we had to use one basic model in different ways, or use a world symbolized specifically for game use. Now it is much easier for us to achieve our original goal. We can now express more of the real world in the game.
Phew, there is so much packed in these discs. Any issue could keep players busy for hours. And I haven't even covered the secrets and other Easter eggs yet. Those will be covered in a separate video, there's just so many of them. If you're still craving more classic PlayStation nostalgia, Subscribe to my channel for more PlayStation Underground videos. You can also check out my playlist where I cover all the UK magazine's demo discs. If you would like to chat with me and other PlayStation enthusiasts, join our Discord. You'll find a link down there in the description. I'm the Advocate, reminding all of us of the time when gaming was an exciting experience that didn't involve cookie-cutter games designed by committee and filled with microtransactions. Tuh.